So we're very happy to be here today, the FSL Disrupt group. This is our fourth round of book club. We've been working with teachers for quite a while now, since 2019. And here we're going to talk about celebrating joy, specifically in novels and picture books for French immersion from grade 1 to 12. We're so happy to see you again because we haven't had a book club in a little while, and we see that the numbers are very large tonight. So it's such a pleasure that you've joined us. We're going to start off by introducing ourselves each individually. I can get us started. My name is Mimi Masson, and I'm at the University of Sherbrooke. When I started this project, I was in Ontario at the University of Ottawa, working with Amanda and Ruby, and we've had Marika come on this year. And so I taught ESL and FSL for over 10 years in Japan and in Canada. And now I work as a teacher trainer in Bachelor of Education programs, so preparing future teacher candidates. And what's been a lot of fun is initiating the new generation of teachers into this kind of practice and this kind of thinking, and then also getting to learn with all of the veteran teachers here who are doing this work. I'm going to pass the baton to Amanda.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Amanda Cloutier, and I am a secondary educator with the Peel District School Board. Currently, I am in a new role, the de-streaming and transitions teacher. But previously at my school, I have taught core and immersion 9 through 12 in both panels, and started the FSL Disrupt project back in 2020. And really thrilled to have spent so much time with all of you developing and really pushing FSL communities around the country. So grateful that you're here. I'll pass it to Ruby.
Hi everyone, I'm Ruby Sharma. I'm a teacher in York Region District School Board, an FSL teacher in both core and immersion and department head for 20 years. I've been so fortunate to connect with Mimi, Amanda, and the team during the pandemic. This was a pandemic baby. The FSL Disrupt project grew from grassroots sharing between FSL teachers across Ontario and then eventually across Canada. We're so excited that you've joined us this evening. We're looking forward to sharing with you some of the learning that we've done and that we continue to do with our students, alongside our students, in a shared learning model with them as we explore disrupting canonical texts, bringing in texts that represent diverse voices and experiences. And most exciting of all is introducing our elementary team. We've had so many folks come to us at our sessions for with CASALT, with OMLTA, asking, when are you going to start an elementary team? It's great that you have secondary, and we're all secondary folks here. So we were so happy that that Asha and Karen and Mandisa, could come on board and bring their perspective from an elementary experience perspective to the project to enrich all of our learnings.
Yeah, so I'm Marika. I'm a long-term occasional teacher with Toronto. I'm also a PhD student at York University. And so, yeah, I got involved with this project through Mimi, who I do a lot of FSL research work with. And very, very excited because a lot of my research focuses on anti-colonialism and anti-racism. And so being able to actually work with teachers and see what everyone's up to and work on the pedagogy side is really fun. And I'm new to the team. I only joined 2 or 3 months ago. So I'm very excited for my first book club session. And I'll pass it on to Asha.
Hi, everyone. My name is Asha. I teach in the Peel Board. I've been teaching for 7 years now in primary and junior. I really enjoy teaching primary and being able to bring language, learning French language in the early years. I was really looking to build community. And I found that there were glimmers here and there of the kind of work that FSL Disrupt is doing that I was seeing in different boards and different friends of mine. And when I found FSL Disrupt, I was so excited as a place to ground the really important work that's necessary to be done. And so I asked about an elementary team, and then I met Karen and Mandisa, and I'm really excited to be a part of this book club and to see how we'll continue our learning moving forward. And I'll pass it on to Karen.
Thanks so much, Asha. Good evening, everybody. My name is Karen Devenish-Mazzetta, and I am a teacher librarian with the Toronto District School Board in Midtown Toronto. And I've been teaching for 27 years. I'm a French as a second language teacher as well. And I'm so proud to get to serve in a community that has a variety of students from all walks of all different social identities, and to get to service them in all of their languages. So we have a very multilingual school at Rawlinson. I've also had the benefit of working for 19 years with teacher candidates at York University, primarily the Glendon teacher candidates who are preparing to become the new French as a second language teachers in our province and all across the country. And myself and my colleague Cecile Robertson a few years ago were introduced to FSL Disrupt, and we're so honored to be invited to participate in one of their book clubs and summer institutes in the summer. And we were just so inspired by the work that they do. And many years ago, maybe even before that invitation, my colleague who's going to speak to you soon, my present colleague at Glendon, Mandisa Bromfield, but a good friend of mine for many years, spoke about putting together a book club for elementary teachers. And it just seemed like destiny when we were asked to come and join your group. And so this is what was meant to happen. So we're so happy to share all of this with you tonight. Mandisa.
Hello, bonsoir, everyone. It's so great to be here. My name is Mandisa Bromfield, and I am a teacher. I've been teaching within the Toronto District School Board for it's amazing to calculate it, over 20 years now. I'm currently, and I've worked in FSL classrooms from all grades K to 8, and working in core, immersion, extended, and as well as centering a lot of the work that I do, especially recently in the early years, working as an early reading coach in both English and FSL environments. So the early years have been a really important core part of my teaching and learning journey. I'm currently on a secondment at York University Collège Glendon, and I have as Karen mentioned, well, I have the honor to work with Karen, and as well, I've been honored to join this team in FSL Disrupt. Yes, it feels like destiny. It feels like exciting, groundbreaking work. And I'm so happy to be here, and I hope that I can continue on this teaching and learning journey, doing some really important work, disrupting our systems that are colonial systems that sadly are in some cases harming students. So hopefully we can do exactly what this group is entitled, Disrupt, and center FSL learning and do it with joy. So thank you, everyone, and I'm really excited about this evening.
Ok, oui. Donc oui, on a un peu mentionné là dans les introductions la création de l'équipe qui va s'occuper de développer des ressources au primaire avec vous. Et donc, on est vraiment, vraiment content d'avoir cette possibilité parce que comme Amanda nous a dit, on a eu beaucoup d'entre vous qui nous ont demandé. Donc, j'espère que vous êtes là ce soir pour inaugurer cette nouvelle équipe. Puis, je vais peut-être vous laisser parler, Asha, Mandisa et Karen, si vous voulez un petit peu présenter vos objectifs ou ce que vous voulez faire avec votre projet ou dire quelques mots à nos participants.
Je pourrais commencer. Alors pour moi, je sais, comme Mimi avait dit, il y a beaucoup de personnes qui voulaient faire ce travail en communauté. Et souvent, je trouve avec immersion, on fait nos travaux dans nos salles de classe et il y a la difficulté à parler aux autres, à avoir des ressources, de savoir comment utiliser les ressources, comment on utilise par exemple un livre dans une salle de classe d'immersion, c'est vraiment différent qu'une salle de classe francophone ou en anglais. Alors, il faut avoir l'expérience d'être en immersion pour comprendre comment ça se passe dans les salles de classe. Et aussi, comme Karen avait dit, nous avons beaucoup d'élèves qui sont multilingues. Donc, pour eux, le français, c'est leur troisième, quatrième langue. Alors, comment on enseigne le français à eux, c'est très différent. Et c'est dans beaucoup d'écoles, dans beaucoup de provinces et à travers le pays. Alors, c'est vraiment, on voulait commencer l'équipe primaire pour commencer une communauté ensemble, pour parler entre eux autres, pour partager les ressources. Et Karen m'a dit ça, je ne sais pas si vous voulez ajouter.
Peut-être que je peux juste ajouter que du fait que beaucoup des ressources qui existent, ou désolé, en premier, j'ai entendu discuter de beaucoup d'enseignants et enseignantes qu'il n'y a pas assez de ressources, qu'il n'y a pas assez de ressources, il n'y a pas assez de ressources, comme Acha a mentionné, en français, ou qui sont disponibles et où nos apprenants de français comme langue seconde peuvent vraiment s'engager avec. Donc, ça, c'est un défi, mais franchement, on voit beaucoup plus de ressources maintenant que jamais. Donc, c'est avec le partage des ressources qui existent et aussi le partage et l'enseignement des ressources qu'on peut faire et dans beaucoup de différentes manières. Donc, c'est avec ça qu'on peut continuer à développer les programmes de français comme langue seconde, particulièrement dans le niveau primaire.
Merci beaucoup. Vous avez très bien dit. Donc, je ne sais pas ce que j'ai d'autre à contribuer, sauf que en tant qu'enseignante bibliothécaire, souvent, je vois les profs de français langue seconde qui sont isolés dans leur salle de classe, dans leurs écoles, qui trouvent des nouveautés, des ressources excellentes, qui savent très bien comment les aborder avec des enfants pour qu'ils puissent voir la diversité qui existe au monde, pour aborder certains sujets que des gens trouvent sensibles, peut-être trop sensibles pour des enfants, mais ils font d'une façon efficace. Alors là, je trouve que ce groupe nous donne l'occasion de nous rassembler et de partager tout ce qu'on fait avec nos étudiants. Et on n'a souvent pas ces occasions dans les écoles, on n'a souvent pas assez de temps, assez de soutien. Donc, voici l'occasion où on peut même suggérer les ressources, mais aussi comment aborder certains sujets qu'on trouve peut-être, entre guillemets, sensibles, mais nécessaires pour que les enfants puissent se reconnaître dans les lectures qu'ils lisent à l'école. Donc, j'espère que non seulement vous allez avoir l'occasion d'apprendre, mais aussi de partager et contribuer à cette belle communauté.
Donc, vous voyez, on parle tous ensemble dans notre groupe, on communique beaucoup et on espère pouvoir faire ça avec vous aussi, hein, notre audience ce soir, parce que c'est vraiment un travail collaboratif, comme nos collègues viennent juste de le dire. On va juste vous parler un petit peu là des objectifs du projet FSL Disrupt. And I'm just switching between French and English pour être bilingue, mais je vais passer à Amanda qui va nous en parler un petit peu.
Just really quickly, it sort of has been alluded to with everything everyone has said. FSL Disrupt began in 2020 with the goal of trying to identify novels that could be used in the secondary FSL classroom that not only met the interest level of students in the secondary panel, but were culturally responsive and reflective of the students that we had in our classes. And also, finally, at a language level that was appropriate for them. What we were finding is that when you looked for novels at that age range in French, they were very often destined to a Francophone audience, and therefore the language level was too high. And that's where this project began. Since then, 3 years has gone by, and we have developed sort of two panels, sort of two streams of how we sort of go about our sessions and our professional growth as colleagues. We have a sort of series that we are now calling Grow the Database. And what previously was our book clubs are now these, where the idea is that People bring new books that they have recently read and are able to offer a review of them as an FSL teacher. For example, tonight I have 2 novels that I have recently read, and I look forward to sharing the plot summary as well as some insights with you into how they can be used in the secondary FSL classroom. We are also this year going to be inviting some colleagues into sharing how they are using their novels in an FSL classroom. And this is the Practice Makes Progress sessions. We know that practice does not make perfect, but we want to learn from one another and see what they are doing. So that's FSL Disrupt in a nutshell. If you are new here, we're so excited for you to be here. And we're going to go through a quick recap of what the sessions are going to look like and some sort of background information before we jump into everything, just some sort of points for consideration. We are very grateful to those who have read a book and are prepared to share it this evening. And if that's not something that you had previously committed to in advance, but you're loving the energy and you're like, yes, I know a book. I've recently read a book. Let's bring it. Please, this is a collaborative space. This is not a presentation. We would absolutely love to hear from you. Some of the early book clubs that we did, to me, during COVID times, felt like Scholastic Book Fair, but for teachers, because my Amazon list was full of the new novels, and I love to hear from what other people are doing. So if it so beseeches you and you're like, yes, I want to share, here are some ideas on what you can do. Another key criteria for our novel selection is, of course, the language level that is being used in the novel. So just try to keep in mind, for example, I know myself, Ruby, and others may use the CEFR language levels. Maybe if you just want to hop to the next slide. In order to sort of determine what is the language level of my novel, what is the language level of the learners in front of me. That might be one space, but that is definitely something you want to keep in mind when you are sharing. And new this year, we are trying to center novels related to joy. And I'm going to pass la parole to Ruby here to just sort of clarify this mission, provide some insight, because it's a really, really good, profoundly deep goal that we've got here.
Thanks, Amanda. So those of you who've attended previous book club sessions or have seen us speak about the project, maybe at conferences that we've attended, know that this is ongoing learning, ongoing sharing, and it's teacher, as Mimi said, it's about teacher collaboration, and who better than to get a reference or a recommendation for a book than from another teacher who's actually using that book in their classroom. How are they using it? What challenges does the text pose in terms of teaching to students? How are students reacting? So this is really what we wanted FSL Disrupt. And for those of you who haven't been to the website, I've placed the link in the chat, fsldisrupt.org. You can access the prior learning. All the presentations that we have done is available there. And just to give you a recap, we really wanted to focus originally on unpacking the idea of intercultural understanding, which is in our curriculum, grade 1 all the way to 12. It's the same curriculum expectation, and really talk about building cultural competence. What does that look like? Oftentimes we were ourselves noticing that those intercultural understanding pieces were often relegated to maybe the end of a course or tacked on, and were relegated maybe to a project or research, as opposed to really being centered. We also wanted to unpack, whose voices are traditionally centered, whose lived experiences are traditionally centered, and the focus of learning, especially in a secondary context, which is where we began. And we really looked at the canon of French literature and noticed that many voices, particularly those voices of the francophonie, are often marginalized or completely omitted or missing in the texts and the resources that we were using. And so we wanted to create a resource where teachers could find text recommendations to really bring those voices from the margins to the center of learning and planning for our courses. And so on our site, if you haven't again visited our site, for those of you who are new to FSL Disrupt, please have a look. We have text recommendations, novel recommendations there, and slides from prior learning as well. One of the central foci of prior learning was trauma-informed teaching as well, because a lot of the texts that we had at first brought forward and surfaced had a lot of issues that were challenging, difficult. We talked a lot about trigger warnings, about contextualizing culturally, socially, politically, historically texts for students so that they could understand. We noticed very quickly that a lot of the texts were perhaps focusing on stories of challenges, oppression, and oftentimes stories that are difficult, and those topics, those subject matter is important to tackle with students, but so is joy, so is celebrating excellence. And so how can we balance and redress this balance so we're not just showing certain groups or certain marginalized groups as only having experienced trauma? We don't want to re-stereotype, right? So we want to be critical of our own work as well. And that's what led us to the work of Goldie Mohammed. I hope that many of you are familiar with her work. If not, we highly recommend, and we've been working with and doing some of our own learning with Cultivating Genius and Unearthing Joy. Those are two of the texts that Goldie Mohammed has written. And really, they center around the idea of, what are what are we helping our students to learn about themselves or about others? What skills and content learning, standards are we teaching to? And how can we question what those standards and ideas, how can we unpack the bias or stereotypes that exist within that? And then beyond that, how will we engage our students in thinking about power, about equity, about anti-oppression in that text, in society and in the world? But how can we also advance students' happiness? How can we elevate beautiful images, truthful images, complex images, and narratives that express that life is full of challenges, but that there's also joy to be found in life experience? And how can we not necessarily focus or surface only trauma and challenge and maybe diminish or not account for or discuss the experiences of joy that are shared in these novels? And so we thought about shifting our selection process and our criteria for this particular book club. We're very excited to share with you some of the texts that we've selected where we can surface experiences of joy, examples of excellence as well in the novel. So we're excited to share that with you tonight in our breakout rooms.
If we can just take a moment to maybe even just go around and just even like a brief introduction, say your name, what grade or age group you're working, or what which type of French program you're working within, and then we can go from there, and we can begin by sharing a few of our books, and then
see who wants to share.
Hi, I'm Mary Baldacero. I teach in the core French program, grades 4 to 8. I teach in Elmira, which is part of the Waterloo Catholic District School Board, and I've been following this from the very beginning, and it's just always been so fabulous that even though only a very few of my top students would be able to manage some of the books that you're trying to discuss, it's so valuable. So thank you for all your work, always.
And Mary, I don't know if you want to pass it along to someone.
Oh, sure. I'm going to pass it to M. Duwin. Is that how do I pronounce your last name?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
Yeah, Mark Duwin is my name. I'm now a retired principal, but I still work part-time for the Toronto District School Board. I was a teacher, a consultant, and a French immersion administrator. But I'm really passionate about, bringing the lives of our students forward. One of the things I was working on, and I'm going to date myself here, but many, many years ago, this is 17 years ago. Can anybody, there we go. Efface les préjugés pour le bon, if anybody knows it. It's not quite showing, I can't see it. Anyway, EDFO worked on this. They had an English version of it. I was very excited to try to find resources that we could have in French to reflect the diversity of our school population. I'm really happy to see this group is coming about because there's so much that we can learn from each other. And I'm just eager to learn about more resources that I can use and share when I either give presentations or I'm talking to new teachers. So thank you.
Congratulations on your retirement. I had no idea.
And I didn't know you were Rollinson, but okay, Karen, we'll talk. Should I introduce somebody new? Asha, how about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm a part of the elementary FSL Disrupt team. I'm now teaching grade 2, 3 in immersion with Peel. And I'll pass it to Andrea.
Bonjour tout le monde. So I am originally from Montreal. This is my second year teaching in Alberta. I'm teaching FSL. I'm also the EAL teacher. So I teach grade 3, 4, 5, and 6 FSL. And I teach the EAL to all the grade levels. So I'll pull out a few. In Quebec, I taught English. I never thought I would be an FSL, but I am. Here we are. So hello, everyone. And I'm going to call on Melody.
Hi, everyone. I just rushed home and I'm having dinner, so I'm not going to turn on my camera. But that's a pretty accurate picture of me, taken a couple of months ago. So that is what I look like. I currently got a new job teaching grade 6, 7 French, core French at a independent school called the Montcrest School in Ontario, Toronto. For years, I had been teaching English as a core teacher, teaching, I guess, math, language arts, science, social studies. So I'm back in being a core French teacher and kind of looking for some new resources. Often I find myself just translating books from English that I like that work for the topic into French. So I'm curious to learn about what else is out there. So yeah, thank you. I will pass it along to Jeanette.
Okay, hello, my friends. I am so honored to be here with you all. This is my first time with everybody. I had an instructional program leader tell me about FSL. I work for the Halton District School Board, and they shared with me some resources a long time ago. And as the person for our board who's developing a automatic release program for French elementary resources, I am super stoked to be here to hear all of the resources that we can kind of just tease out and just give our kids. So I'm super happy to be here, and thank you. I'm going to pass it off to Rita.
Bonsoir, hello. I work also with, I actually teach in 2 schools. In one, I'm teaching grade 7, 8 visual art and French immersion. And then in the other school, I'm core French teacher for the gifted classes, grade 5 to 8. Very diverse student population. I always try to gather resources because especially my gifted classes are challenging me to think outside of the box. So I have to be 2 steps ahead of them.
Shall we pass to Annette?
Okay, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Hi, everyone, I'm Annette. I'm teaching elementary, and this year I had a big range of grades. But this year I'm grade 7, and I'm just really looking forward to mainly what everyone else has said about having more diverse resources to use in the classroom, and something that I could really have the students engage in rather than just a random reading. So that's my goal here today. And can I pass it on to Amy?
Thanks, Annette. Hi, everyone. I'm Amy, and I work at Upper Grand District School Board. I'm a program lead for FSL, but my background was with teaching core French secondary. I was part of the first round of FSL Disrupts, and I decided to join the elementary panel today because I do support K-12 core and immersion, and so I was really interested in hearing some of the titles for elementary. And I'm also here as a representative for OMLTA. We were excited to work with Casalta on inviting these wonderful people here tonight. Oh, and I'll pass to Tammy.
Bonsoir tout le monde. I work in Peel. This year I'm teaching grade 4. So I have my own grade 4 class to which I teach French, and I also teach a 4-5 French. core. So I have experience both in core from 4 is the youngest I've taught, obviously, but it's really the first time I'm teaching grade 4 on its own. I've taught 5, 6, 7, 8, as well as high school core French, and I have experience in middle school immersion as well. I don't know if I have a book to share tonight or not. I have a couple of thoughts in mind, but I'm here to make sure that, I'm sort of following the criteria that have been set with the focus on joy, etc. So we'll see how that unfolds, but I'm really excited to be here. Oh, and I'll pass it to who hasn't spoken yet. I think everyone has. Oh, no, there's some people that aren't on camera, I guess, right? So Megan, maybe?
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm a librarian actually for the provincial government of Manitoba, and we help support teachers who teach French. I'm the support librarian for basic French. So I'm just looking for resources that we can, because like we have a big library, and then all of the teachers who teach French, like either francophone or immersion or basic French, core French, can access resources from us. So I'm just looking for some more ideas for our library that we could share with the teachers. And I'll pass it to Ella.
Hello, do you hear me? I'm not sure if my microphone is working. Yes? Okay, thank you so much. My name is Ella. I'm working with Peel, and I'm teaching French immersion, grade 3, 4, and 5 students. So I've been already with Peel for 15 years, and I'm always looking for resources, although I'm quite a seasoned teacher. I would like to wish everybody bonsoir, and thank you very much for sharing our expertise together.
And I think we have Karen and Oana still.
Well, you know all about me, so I'm not going to talk.
Oh,
So,
no,
Oana.
there's
I think
another.
there's 2 Karen.
Oh, there's another Karen.
But Oana just
Everyone. So I'm a 4-5 FI teacher in Halton. I've been teaching FI for about 10 years. All in all, I've been teaching for 20 years now, 10, as I said, in FI. I'm also the French lead at my school, so I'm looking for ideas that I can pass along to my colleagues. Thank you for doing this.
And then we have another Karen, but I don't know, maybe she's not available at this moment.
You just posted in the chat.
Sorry, her mic isn't working. Okay, her mic isn't working. She works for WCDSB Core FSL for 7 years, grade 4 and 8. Thank you for being here, Karen.
Well, I can get started, as this is the book that I shared. I shared this book purposely, knowing that some of you might already have seen this book. Well, I can't see everybody, so I can't ask for a thumbs up if you've already seen it. But you might have seen this book as Le Costume de Malaika était un livre partagé par, what is it called? I believe it's the TD Book Club giveaway. So every year TD Bank gives away a book to grade 1 students across the country, I believe. Am I correct, folks? Okay, yes. I'm seeing some nodding. So yes. So TD Bank gives books to grade 1 student, every single grade 1 student across the country. And I know that that's been going on for as long as I've been teaching. So that's well over 20 years. I don't know exactly how long that's been happening. Anyway, this was the book. It must have been about 5 or 6 years ago now. So this book is in a lot of our schools already, a lot of our, not just schools, not just school libraries, but a lot of classrooms. There might be copies floating around. So I wanted to share this book because it's a book that is so popular and easy to access. I also wanted to share this book because the author, Nadia Hahn, who is also a TDSB teacher, Nadia Hahn created, it's part of a series. So there's Le Costume de Malaika, there is Le Carnaval de Malaika, there's La Surprise de Malaika, and then there is also, oh my goodness, I've forgotten the 4th book in the series. It hasn't been translated yet. but it is hopefully going to be translated. Now, as we are thinking critically about the text that we use, I do have to say that it is unfortunately a book that has been translated from English to French, and not a book that was written in French primarily. But I also do have to advocate for the author, who I know quite well. Nadia Hahn is, as I mentioned, a TDSB teacher. She is also available to do book talks in and around the Toronto region, as she lives in Toronto. However, I know that she's also expanded, and she's also done a lot of traveling with her book presentation. And she, as a teacher, she's well versed in presenting to classrooms and schools. And she does present in French because she is also an FSL teacher. So that's kind of the reasoning behind why I chose this book. I'll go through, maybe I'll just go through quickly sort of the criteria that's listed here in front of you, and explain sort of my thought process in choosing this book. And then maybe if folks have questions, or if you've already seen this book used, you can share how you've used it or how you've seen it used. Yeah, feel free to share either in the chat box, or just ouvrez vos micros et partagez. So yes, this book is written by a Black author. So that answers question or point number one. For number two, the main characters are from a range of backgrounds in terms of racial backgrounds and social identities. I wanted to point out that this book in particular takes place in the Caribbean, and I don't believe that it's named specifically a Caribbean island, but it could be a variety of Caribbean regions. Probably most likely Trinidad, as the main character Malaika is preparing herself for Carnival, and Carnival is a big celebration that happens yearly, and it is centered on joy. So Malaika is a young Black girl who is the main character. Her grandmother is in the book, and her mother is featured in the book as well. Malaika's mother is not with Malaika, so there's a bit of sadness there. Her mother is overseas. Her mother actually is in Canada working to support the family and sending money home. And there is uncertainty of whether Malaika will have enough money to purchase a costume for Carnival. So although there's the sadness aspect to the book, the whole fact that the book centers Carnival and centers joy and Malaika problem solving with her grandmother and her community to figure out her costume for Carnival is how it centers on joy. And also the other characters in the book demonstrate not just Black or Afro-Caribbean. There is Chinese Caribbean, Indo-Caribbean influences and characters in the book that are acknowledged and represented by the other characters, their experiences, and what they're engaged in the book. In terms of, so I think I've answered or addressed points 3 and 4, and how it includes elements of joy and excellence. The book also makes links with contemporary issues. And I have to also agree that it does so throughout the series of books. So in the second book, Le Carnaval de Malaika, Malaika then joins her mother in Canada, and has the experience of coming to Canada. I don't know if you can see the cover. You can see she's bundled up, ready for Canadian winters. and the celebration of Carnaval, and for Malika, understanding what Carnaval is in a Canadian context, different from her Caribbean context. Then also getting an extended family, as her mother has a new partner, and then Malika in the later books has a stepsister. So all issues and links to contemporary existence for learners that are diverse learners from different backgrounds and social identities that they face. And in terms of offering opportunities to develop the intercultural understanding of diverse French-speaking communities and other communities, I think it's important to recognize those other communities the links to also I have to also mention the links to linguistic patterns that are noted in the book are significant because it represents Caribbean influences on French and in English as well. I think I'll stop there in terms of addressing the criteria, and maybe I'll just mention how I've used the book in my classroom practice. So I've used this book in with a variety of students. I've used it with early maternelle, as well as grade 1, 2, and 3. And in terms of the sharing that I've done, as there is a lot of language in the book. I've modified the storyline a bit to make it sort of an easier entry point for our very early years learners, our maternelle and première année. And then focused a lot on the visual aspects. I've also used this book with core French in grades 4, 5, and 6. We've done an activity, I'm not sure if anybody's used the tea party strategy, where I've pulled out sections of the book and photocopied images from the book, and then asked the students to, before reading the book, ask students to share what they think the story might be about based on the images. I do that with sort of like learners that might not have as much reading ability in French, and then I might do the same but without using the pictures and just focusing on the text and asking learners to place, how do you think the story develops? What might happen first, second, third? Can we talk about what makes you think that? And then doing after that type of exploration, learners are very much like, well, can you, Madame, get on with it. Please tell us what's going to happen in the book. They're so excited and anxious and eager to find out if their predictions are right. And so then the reading of it is I find is also, especially for those who might not have the language yet, it's much easier to understand because they've already done so much processing of the images or the text themselves, and they're already engaged in the book before the reading begins. And then, of course, coming back to the book a second, third, fourth, fifth time sometimes to explore it deeper with every reading. I'm not sure if anyone here has seen this book yet, and if folks have, can I ask, how might you have used this book in your practice?
Mandy, so I can share a little bit. It's Asha. So I've used Le Costume de Malika and also the one where Mom comes during wintertime with my students. I've used it in grade 1, and so I've done it over a few weeks. And it's a great way to talk about seasons, traditions with our family, what we like doing with different family members, looking at a lot of the pictures. And I didn't know it was called the Tea Party method. So I was doing this for years. I didn't know there was a name to it. So it's kind of cool to be able to learn that. And with this book, I find students are very drawn to the colors and very drawn to the pictures. And that's a really good hook to get them interested and engaged.
Agreed. And I should have mentioned that too. The images are, the colors really do just sort of pop off the pages. I'll sort of hold the book up. I'm not sure if you can see, but yeah, I really do find that the images really pop off the pages. And I know also on on Nadia Han's website, the author's website, she also has activities posted there, as well as for our earliest learners, there's some, I think she's got some bookmarks that you can print out and kids can color those, as well as ideas for creating their own headpiece, carnival headpiece. The peacock is what Malika ends up putting together. And so there's that on the website.
So it's Diwali this weekend. And so to show how loved this book is in my classroom, my students took the jacket off. So I have the book here, but it doesn't look like that one. And I chose this book because I find it can be difficult sometimes to talk about les traditions, les célébrations dans la langue française. The book is in English called Benny's Diwali, and it's translated. But I'm really drawn to this book, like Mandisa said, and with her book, I don't know if you can see here, there's a lot, oh, it's blurred, but there's a lot of different colors, and that tends to draw students in their learning. And what I really like about this book is there's different aspects of Diwali that are being shared. So the religious aspect, the cultural aspect, and there's a lot of different fall celebrations and winter celebrations that happen around now that have to do with light, right? So if we're thinking later on, there's Hanukkah, there's Christmas, Kwanzaa, there's Diwali. A lot of these celebrations have to do with light and good prevailing over evil. So that's a really great connection to bring lots of different traditions together. And when I was looking at the pictures, what I really like is that they show a lot of different shades of skin. And so, you know, in India, you have people who are white passing, people who are not. And so Binny, this character, her parents, they're two different, they're both racialized, but they're not the same shade. And so I like seeing that kind of representation visually in books for students. And so in this book, she's explaining to her class how she celebrates Diwali and what it means. And when I was reading the author's note at the end, it was really interesting because the author grew up in India and celebrated Diwali, but they're not Hindu, they're Zoroastrian. And so they were saying no matter what religion you are in India, you always celebrate Diwali. So, you know, there's that aspect to also think about when we're talking about celebrations and how different people can celebrate differently. And Karen, do you mind just putting the slides again so I can go through the list? And so this is something, you know, FSL Disrupt, our team came together to think, you know, what are some guidelines to think about when we're choosing books. And we had a lot of discussions about this, and we could have had a lot more, but we had to present. And so these are some guidelines to follow. So I went through number 1 and 2. And something important we talked about was challenging essentialism, tokenism, stereotypes. You know, that's really important, looking at the visuals, what they're representing. And what I really liked here is that there are authentic pictures that represent the community. So for example, when Binny's having dinner with her parents, she's eating with her hands, eating her food with her hands, right? So small things like that where students can make those connections are really important. And that's just a part of the story. And it includes joy. So there are some students who don't understand and who aren't saying nice things to Binny necessarily, but she's going back to her community and grounding herself in community to find joy. And Diwali is about joy, right? It's about good over evil, light over darkness. And there's like I said, there's a lot of really great connections to be making. And because the book is so colorful, it is text heavy, especially if you're doing it for primary learners. So what I tend to do is we look at the pictures first, then we go back and pull vocabulary, and then I'll read it again to students. And this gives students an understanding of what different celebrations can look like around the world. And you likely have students who celebrate Diwali, so they can compare, how Binny celebrates it versus how they celebrate it. Students can compare about, different traditions in their family. When do we have special foods, like when Binny has it during Diwali? And so this is a way to ground student identity and literacy. There's also, if you wanted to do multimedia text, there's an English clip, Lights for Gita, and there's actually a French one with NFB, Des Lumières pour Gita, and I actually did that one with my students today. So there's a lot of different texts out there. You just need to find them, but they are there.
I have to tell you, Asha, I just found another book about Diwali that's somewhat similar to Binny's Diwali today when I was cleaning up for the Scholastic Book Fair, and I grabbed it, and I should have taken a picture of it. It just was recently translated, I think, but when we all share together, I'll share the book. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'll just say, because I'm looking at the time too, just quickly. I know for me, I grew up in a very small little suburb outside of a city center, and I was often the only person of color in my class. And so I was often put on the spot by educators to like fill this role as a child, which we shouldn't be doing to students. And so for me, when I see books like this, like I feel like a little kid where I'm like, oh, this is the book I wish I had. And so, if we're able to evoke that joy for students, it's really beautiful and really wonderful.
I just love to hear how you're using them in your classrooms. And those are two books that I use with my students, but it inspires me to use them differently when I hear such outstanding colleagues talk about what they've done in their teaching experiences. The book I'm going to share with you today is called Dakota par des traités. I chose this book because this week is Treaty Recognition Week, La Reconnaissance des Traités. C'est cette semaine. And this is a book that I actually read with students today, 3 different times, twice in English and once in French. It's by Kelly Crawford, who is a part of the Michigan First Nation in Ontario. And Donald Chrétien is the illustrator, and he's part of the Nipissing First Nation in Ontario. I like choosing this book in particular because it's written by 2 authors who are a part of First Nations here in Ontario. And I'm so sorry that that the QR codes at the bottom are a little cut off. For this text, I do a lot of setup for the kids, and there's a lot of work that comes after this too. So the grade 2-3s that I read it with this time, like today, they saw the book last year, and we talked about treaties last year. And from 6 to 7, sometimes kids forget things. So we start by talking about what a treaty is. Qu'est-ce que c'est un traité? And some of them remembered and some of them didn't. So one of the QR codes here, if you take a picture and scan, actually has a video that is put on by the government with Chad Solomon, who's a well-known knowledge keeper and storyteller here in Ontario, who is talking about what a treaty is, and a treaty is a promise. And so I explained to the students that this book is multilingual like they are. It was written in Anishinaabe, also en français, and also in English. So we have the 3 versions. I have the French version here with me today. You could use this book with JK to grade 8. I've used this book in maternelle with the students. I don't read it word for word, but we do read that Dakota is speaking about an experience about her experiencing the 250th anniversary of the Treaty of Niagara and going to Niagara Falls with her family, and remembering seeing wampum belts there, and remembering that she was at a camp where a young gentleman made a wampum belt. It's a good introduction to another book that's written by Kelly Crawford, which is called Alex partage sa ceinture de wampum. And that also is another book where it goes into a little more detail about wampum belts and I'm just checking the time here, being a representation, a sacred representation of nations making a promise. So it teaches students about the meaning of the wampum belts and significance of treaties. We connected this story to our land acknowledgement. Another one of the QR codes goes to an interactive map called Native Land. And if you go to that map, you can find any space here in Canada that's covered by treaty land. And so today we were able with the kids to send Toronto, and we saw that Toronto is a part of Treaty 13. And the students, you can switch Native Land, that website, to not only look at treaties, but also look at territories. So they saw also that my school is on the territory of the Mississaugas of the New Credit. And the kids all said, yeah, madame, that's what we say every morning. And I was like, exactly, that's exactly it. So part of our Reconnaissance de la Terre is reminding us that we're on this treaty and that we are treaty people. And I think the introduction of this book and all the conversations that come after pushes the learners, even at deuxième, troisième année, to a call to action, to about we're doing the reminder of the land acknowledgement. But when we look at that native land map, we also see that beside the Toronto purchase was also land, part of the land that is being claimed. So the Rouge claim, and we discuss what that means. That when we talk about getting into a promise, what does it mean to make a promise to somebody? How do you feel when someone keeps their promise? How do you feel when someone breaks a promise? And then we start to talk about, well, a land claim, what is that exactly? That's about two people being, or two groups being in an agreement, and one not feeling that agreement was actually realized, and that has to be reexamined so that we can do what's right. So that was really, really fast, but I hope if I stop and I make it a little bit smaller, you can take a picture of this slide, and you can see the various QR codes. We'll take websites that I use before, during the reading, and after, so that students can learn a little bit more about treaties in Canada. Yes.
I'm just wondering, would I be able to share? I don't know, folks, are folks aware of the Native Land website?
So it's one of those QR codes.
But yeah, it's just so cool to see. And I find
Yes.
students are just fascinated because you can see, like Karen mentioned, the different treaties, as well as you can see the languages, and how languages and treaties and the territories overlap and aren't so, and don't necessarily coincide with what the borders are now. So it's such an interesting exploration. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is essentially what I did with the 2-3s today, the 3 classes. We went to this website, and again, let me know if you were not able. But if you took a picture of the slide, here was my plan. This is the plan in my head, that you would take a picture of the slide, and then you could take your phone and scan the QR code, and it would shoot you to these, to the couple videos and whatnot. But anyway, this is one of the QR codes. So with the kids, we talked about where is Canada, and then they would tell me move right, move left, move up, move down. And then we centered on, let's say we took off territory. Is there a part of Canada that you recognize? We start talking about the Great Lakes, and they're like, oh yeah, we name them. And then we moved in closer. And so we're in Toronto. Sorry, the folks that are in Alberta, but you can do this as well for you. We got close to where you can see the Toronto Islands. And then we said, well, that's going to be Toronto. And then you can flip it and turn it on for territory. You can turn it on for language. And then we talked about, oh, look at that language. Was that the same language? There's a video that where Chad Solomon is speaking in Anishinaabe Moen. And so that also Dakota also says Ani at the beginning, and we talk about that's the language of the Mississaugas. And then you can also flip it to treaty. And so, as I said, if you go a little bit closer, you can see the Toronto Purchase. And there are a couple other So I did that really quickly, and I know we got to go. There are a couple other resources that are a part of that slide where you'll see a different version where you can see the land claim land as well.
Thank you, Andrea, and thank you so much. We're going to go back to the main room just for like 2 minutes. We have a few messages to share with you.
Does anybody have any questions about Dakota Parle des Traités? Sorry, it was so fast. Yeah, maybe that's what
I
we can
loved
see.
hearing how you use the native land website with the students and how it like generates so much conversation, so many different conversations just from this one resource that's an addition to the book. So you can imagine the possibilities then for conversations, and the way you're having the conversations is very interesting to model for us.
Well, I want to encourage core French teachers as well, because I don't know, I'll just really quickly show you, like you can see the language isn't insane, but I also find the book isn't so bébé either. So that I've used it with grade 6s before, and they've been okay, oui, madame, no, I knew, and and they love it. For them, like grade 6 French immersion, super accessible. But if you did a little bit of pre-teaching, look at images, you do parts of the book and maybe not all of it, I think it would be really cool for core French too.
Okay, folks, thank you so much. Sounds like a rich discussion, elementary. We as well had a great discussion in the secondary breakout room. So happy to see everyone this evening. On veut remercier nos partenaires, n'est-ce pas, au Meltier Casalt. Et j'ai voulu aussi mentionner, si vous n'avez pas abonné à notre site, s'il vous plaît, allez visiter fsldisrupt.org et on va vous envoyer des petits messages courriels pour partager avec vous les prochains ateliers qu'on va offrir.
Et puis vous remercier tous d'être venus ce soir, d'avoir discuté avec nous. N'hésitez pas à nous contacter. I think if you go to the next slide, I don't know if we put our email on there, but it's fsldisrupt@gmail.com, or you can contact us through our website if you've got feedback. If you want to get in touch, we'd love to hear from you.
And don't forget, for all our previous sessions as well, you can check out on fsldisrupt.org. The slides are available. We will also make this book club slide available in the next little while. We hope you'll join us on the 20th as well. Merci bien et bonne soirée à tous. Au revoir.